up, guys? So today's movie up for discussion is the latest action movie, Nobody, which is directed by Ilya Naishuller, who directed Hardcore Henry, was written by Derek Kolstad, who's best known for writing the John Wick movies, and stars the one and only Bob Odenkirk, aka Jimmy McGill from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, in an unexpected midlife action movie role. Here he plays Hutch Mansell, an unassuming family man living a monotonous, repetitive day-to-day life in the suburbs with his family, but an encounter on a bus with some Russians brings his dark past up to the surface. I really enjoyed this film, guys. It's not what I expected it to be. It was surprising in all the right ways. If I was to compare it to some other movies, I would say Nobody is like a cocktail of Taken, The Equalizer, John Wick, of course, and garnished with a slice of Quentin Tarantino's darkly funny sensibilities. It's an action movie with a hint of self-awareness. It's not perfect by any means. There's certainly some faults with its script, which I'll dive into later, but I actually think Nobody has the potential to become the action franchise of this decade, kind of like what John Wick was for the previous decade. It's just balls to the walls entertaining, and I couldn't wait to talk about it, but I'm not going to divulge too much information about this film in this review because it's definitely one of those films where the less you know about it, the better before going into it. But I will give you some vague bullet point positives as to what I really loved about it. The main one, of course, is Bob Odenkirk's performance as Hutch. What a fantastic role for Bob Odenkirk. It's such a refreshing change of pace for him because we're all used to seeing him playing sleazy, slimy characters who usually do more damage with their words than their fists. In fact, he usually plays characters that are on the receiving end of violence. But Nobody has done for Bob Odenkirk what Taken did for Liam Neeson. He got to show off a darker, grittier side of him, and he's completely reinvented himself as a midlife action movie star. Yes, he is a badass in this film, but he's a badass with a dad bod. He's actually quite a compelling action hero because he really does seem like an ordinary, everyday type of guy who just so happens to be an expert in hand-to-hand combat and weapons. There is a sense that because of his age and his less than intimidating stature, that he is vulnerable because he's not a young man anymore and he's been out of the game for like 12 years. And Bob Odenkirk really does a good job of selling the punches that he receives as well as the ones that he gives. Odenkirk absolutely smashes it as Hutch. I completely bought him as an action movie star. Ilya Naishuller's directing I really enjoyed as well. He nails the tone. He strikes a perfect balance of dark and broody action, but there's occasional moments where it's a little bit absurd and playful. Some of the dialogue in this film is downright priceless. I wrote so many quotes down in my little notebook while I was watching this film, and I don't want to say them to you because I'm not going to do them justice. You just have to go and watch the film and appreciate them in the moment. But the one about the kitty cat bracelet, oh my god, I was howling. I could see people just quoting that in everyday conversation just because of how downright ridiculous it is. I loved it. It's up there with like Samuel L. Jackson's iconic line from Snakes on a Plane. I've had it with these mother-tucking snakes on this mother-tucking plane. The action scenes are also well choreographed and shot in lots of wides. You can see that Bob Odenkirk really did a lot of training for this role because he's doing a good chunk of the stunts in this film. It is a very violent film. It's nice and pulpy. And like I said, there is a sense of realism to the action because you do feel the moments where Hutch is vulnerable when he's being kicked and punched. But there is a shot in the final showdown which is just physics-defying bonkers. I was like, nobody could survive that. But there's the title, Nobody. Also, Naishuller does have a tendency to shoot a fair bit of his action scenes in slow motion, so at times it does feel like you're watching a Zack Snyder movie, but he does keep it moving at a slick pace. It's a very lean 90-minute runtime. There was not one moment in this film where I was bored or unengaged with it. Also, the soundtrack to this film is dad-tastic. Honestly, the soundtrack to Nobody would make a great Father's Day gift, just saying. Naishula clearly loves a needle drop, to the point where he literally incorporates a needle drop into an action sequence. It's just another example of the film's self-awareness when it comes to knowing what modern action movie audiences want in their action movies. You can tell that Naishula's tongue was very much implanted in his cheek in certain scenes. Also, I have to give a shout out to Christopher Lloyd, who played Hutch's dad in this film. I haven't seen Christopher Lloyd in a film for so long, and he slays it in this film. He doesn't have that many scenes to work with, but when he's there, he really leaves an impression. Christopher Lloyd can just move his face in a particular way and have me howling. He was so good in this film. A brilliant supporting role for him, a perfect bit of casting, so nice to see him again. As for my negatives, I think the film's biggest issue is with its villain, Yulian, played by Alexei Serebrikov. Serebrikov does his best to make him an intimidating presence, but the problem is he's not very well written. He's just this sort of generic, evil Russian baddie who has a penchant for karaoke. There wasn't really much for him to work with. I don't know, I just found him a bit forgettable. I also had some issues with Derek Kolstad's script. From a storytelling point of view, the chain of events that occurs for Hutch to once again become this badass feels very random. Like, it's a lot of coincidences that occur for the story to happen. Yeah, it's just not very good writing in my opinion. I also would have liked a little bit more exploration of Hutch's past. Like, they touch upon it, but they don't go very deep with it. It's just a bit vague and murky, and the same goes with the Russian organization. It doesn't really go into much depth, and I just found it a little bit lacking. So anyway, let's ask them 3 questions. Firstly, would I watch this again? Definitely. I think this would be a fun night in with the boys. Just, we want to watch a silly, pulpy action movie. I'd be down for another rewatch of Nobody. Question 2, do I recommend it for you guys? Yeah, I'm gonna recommend Nobody to anybody who loves an action movie like John Wick, The Equalizer, or Taken. It's very much in that vein and style. It's a very modern action movie, and there is a lot of fun to be had with it. Plus, Bob Odenkirk absolutely slays in this. If you're a fan of Bob Odenkirk in Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, go watch him in this. It's just a refreshingly different role for him. He's so good in it, and yeah, you'll just be delightfully surprised at his capabilities in this film. And third question, what score am I going to give it out of 10? It's a brisk, brutal, and bloody fun action movie. It's certainly got a few flaws with its script, but I did have a really good time with it. So I'm going to give Nobody a score of 7.5 out of 10. That's just one bloke's opinion, guys. I'd love to hear from you if you've seen Nobody. What do you make of it? Whatever you have to say about this movie, let your voice be heard in that comment section down below. If you've enjoyed this review, please do hit the thumbs up button. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars-related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And if you want to follow me on any of my socials, all those links in that video description down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, and popcorn culture, I'm Lloyd, and I'll see you next time.